Universal Studios Hollywood is one of the only theme parks that still actively has a movie studio working inside of it. To be fair, the park is more of a theme park inside of a movie studio, but that's beside the point. Universal Studios Hollywood has been entertaining and sometimes educating guests since 1964, starting with the simple studio tour, which featured attractions such as an exhibition on costume design and a walk through Doris Day's dressing room, evolving into a theme park destination with highly technologically advanced rides and shows. Over the years, unlike Disney, who tends to keep rides around for decades, Universal has always been quick to retheme or completely change rides. Universal opts to keep whatever's cool and current around, while Disney will always have legacy IP that is just timeless, so they're less likely to make a change. So when they do, best believe it's going to stick around for a while, leading to tons of people to cry whenever Disney does something or changes something or rethemes anything. Long story short, Universal has gone through a ton of different rides and experiences through its long history. Some of these are bound to be weird, so I decided to find the weirdest ones and make this video. Starting with the Fast and the Furious Extreme Close-Up. This was a stop on the studio tour from 2006 to 2013, and I'm counting it as its own thing because, you know, like half of the experiences at Universal are on the studio tour. The tour would approach an active set for the new Fast and the Furious movie, where they'd be doing a special effects shot test or whatever. The train would approach a small curve where a bunch of barrels and two cars that sit on Kuka arms just kind of hang out. The show would do some sort of action scene where the cars would flip and move around, and then at the end the cars would dance to Gasolina. Something I always just thought was really funny. Like, they spent all this money to put these cars on like arms and theme it around Fast and the Furious, which is pretty serious, and then at the end, they're like, screw it. Just make them dance. I mean, it's way cooler if you just make the cars dance. And it really is. It's way cooler than like the whole explosion part, just them dancing. The whole thing was like maybe 5 minutes long, and I remember towards the end of its life, you wouldn't always necessarily go down this path. It would be maybe on like a more busy day that they would use this maybe to, like, you know, further stall out studio tours so they could send more through. But, you know, I like towards the end of its life, you rarely ever went down this path. To this day, they still have it up 10 years after its closing. It's not open, of course. It's just sitting there abandoned in the back lot next to that really old Walking Dead Horror Nights tank that is just rotting out there. And, you know, it's kind of funny. It's right after the picture car section. So if you're there, try to see if you can see it. After you see the picture cars, it will be on your left in some bushes. There'll be like a soundstage, like kind of door. That is not a real soundstage. That is the old dancing cars that were themed around Fast and the Furious. Kind of weird, kind of goofy. Next up is what some would call a classic, but I would call a nightmare, and it's Backdraft. All Backdraft really was that you walk into a firehouse and you watch a short video with Ron Howard being like, working on this movie was really hard and there were a lot of fire effects that were really dangerous. So just go into the next room and we're going to show you how dangerous those fire effects are. And then you sit in a small room and you stand on an elevated catwalk, and then they just light the whole room on fire, and you just kind of like sit and watch for like 5 minutes that are horribly claustrophobic and sweaty and hot because you're in a room full of fire. This one is on the list because who in their right mind would be like, let's just make a show where guests sit around and watch a fire grow around them? And I get it, like the fire effects are impressive, but it's just, that's literally it. It's like, okay, on a hot summer day, let's go into Backdraft and get a heat stroke. I just don't think it should have ever been allowed. Backdraft eventually then got replaced by the Transformers ride, which is so much more fun of an experience than being surrounded by, you know, fire. No hate to Backdraft enjoyers, but just a really dumb, stupid thing, you know? There's a lot of fire at Universal. If you want to see fire, you can see fire. And I just don't think we needed a whole thing where it was dedicated to sitting in a room and watching it. Very boring, very scary, and not that fun. The next one on the list is The Creature from the Black Lagoon musical, which was a musical in the special effects soundstage. When making this list, I had a hard time choosing between this and the Spider-Man musical that was also in the same location, but this musical is just so much weirder and so much worse. Aimed to target young teens and adults, this musical attempts to tell the story of the classic film. The music and the lyrics are incredibly annoying and awkward, and I don't like to use the word cringe very often, but this is full-on nuclear levels of it. I don't know how a horror film from the 50s adapted as a musical would draw in teens, but I guess Universal thought it would, so they spent millions to make this happen. Falling in love with Fishman is not necessarily what I think teens in 2008 really cared about, but that's just me. Beside the agonizing and sharp 25 minutes of song and dance, there is one highlight of the show, and it's this very large Creature from the Black Lagoon animatronic puppet that kind of serves as the show's big finale. Creature from the Black Lagoon musical, even on paper, sounds kind of like a joke from The Simpsons or something, but I guess, you know, this animatronic kind of made up for it. It was pretty cool. You know, at the end it swallows the lead lady and it looked really cool. It kind of sucks that this wasn't around for that long. It just kind of went away and that puppet was never reutilized for anything. I think, you know, give it to the Horror Nights people. They could have done something really cool with that. But I've seen a lot of people when they're talking about this say that this would have made a better fit during Horror Nights, and I completely agree. As a yearly thing, like, I don't think this worked as well, but this works really well with Horror Nights and would be much better than something like Jabberwockies that is so unrelated from horror or Halloween. It doesn't even make sense. So yeah, Creature from the Black Lagoon, definitely weird, definitely awful, and definitely very short-lived. The next one up is the Chicken Run Maze, which was incredibly hard to find any footage of or even photos of it beside the couple I'm probably showing on screen right now. Essentially, it was a walkthrough based attraction inspired by the chicken coops from Chicken Run, the stop-motion animated movie from the early 2000s. It was fairly low budget, and guests got the chance to feel like a chicken running for their lives as they weave their way around a very loosely themed chicken coop. There's a lot of cardboard cutouts of characters, and you would also be able to actually see props and puppets used from the film, which is very cool. A little later, they would do a bunch of stuff with Laika, and those are always really fun. This is just weird because they actually tried to make this seem like it was a thing, when in reality, it was like a really poorly themed walk-through maze from what I'm reading. The attraction was incredibly short-lived, and this came at a time where Universal was doing these temporary movie tie-in walk-through experiences. They would later turn this into a Revenge of the Mummy themed haunted house, which actually looked pretty cool. Like it's a pretty long haunted house. It goes for like at least 6 minutes. It looks pretty detailed. There's animatronics in it. It looks pretty awesome. And it looked like it was way more elaborate and way more thought out than this Chicken Run thing. And that's probably because, you know, the Mummy was actually owned by Universal. The Chicken Run Maze is just a very goofy product of its time, and it's surreal to think it even existed. The Universal we know today, I don't think would ever even try to do something like that. So I guess it's kind of cool to see that they were more loosey-goosey about what they put into the park. But if it also wasn't for Chicken Run, you probably would have never gotten the House of Horrors, and that is something I still miss to this day. Seriously, Universal, you got rid of the House of Horrors for some dumb Walking Dead house and Starbucks. Also, I would really like for us to have a 24/7 haunted house again, so maybe if we could choose a new theme, that would be great. A Blumhouse of Horrors maybe. It's not my first choice, but you know, that seems to be what's the most popular horror thing for Universal right now. This last one at the time of when it was made was probably an incredibly cool experience, but in the age of 2023, this is definitely a little silly, a little goofy, a little silly, and for sure, a little weird, and that is the Star Trek Experience. Located in the same location as Shrek 4D and Kung Fu Panda, Universal actually built that theater for the Star Trek Experience originally. During the Star Trek Experience, guests would enter a theater where they would learn how Star Trek was made, and all the camera techniques and special effects that go into it. Similar to Disaster at Universal Orlando, volunteer guests would be invited to act out a small scene on set in costume on the Enterprise. The host would go through the process with the guests in the audience, and by the end of the show, guests would watch the video they shot. Nothing is necessarily weird about this, and it's actually pretty cool. The only reason I decided to include it at all is because I think it produced probably hilarious videos, and I've seen a couple on YouTube and they're very funny. Something about random families from around America painfully acting out scenes from Star Trek is just funny to me. Like, some people you can definitely tell did not want to be a part of this. I don't know, it's funny to me. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. Comment below, guys, if you agree. Like, is that weird? Does this count to go on the list? I don't know, I'm rambling. But anyway, guys, that was the video. I hope you guys like it. I don't know, I'm feeling really inspired to keep making videos and stuff, so if you guys like this one, please like the video. Just like it up, like it all up and down, because it really helps out the channel, really helps me you know, get this video out to more people into their eyes. So if you liked the video, please like it, please subscribe, please comment below and let me know what you guys think. Do you guys want more videos like this? I would love to do more. I kind of want to do a whole video on Knott's Berry Farm maybe next, because that whole place is just weird. But anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later. Peace and bye-bye.